Rick was wrong to do what he did. Was shown to. So we're gonna bide our time, wait for our moment, and then we're gonna show him.
Yeah. We will.
Hey guys, Kiwi here. In this video, I'll be breaking down and discussing the character Maggie going into Season 9 of The Walking Dead, now that we know her actor is confirmed to return to the show. If you want a full discussion about that, feel free to check out my previous video, but this video will be focusing more on the actual direction of her character as we analyze her motives at the end of the Season 8 finale and predict what we should expect from her during the beginning of Season 9. With that being said, major warning of spoilers for everything in the show up to the Season 8 finale, and let's jump right into this. So, as Season 8 concludes, Maggie becomes uncontrollably outraged at Rick for deciding to spare Negan's life. It's something that happened in the comics, and they wanted All Out War to have the same ending in the show, so they sort of shoehorned it in there at the end, and to be honest, upon my first viewing, it felt a bit rushed and kind of forced. Not only that, but Maggie crying out to Rick that they need to end this just feels off and kind of weird, as all the characters just sort of stand there in silent awkwardness listening to her. It makes sense why she is so mad about Rick not wanting to kill Negan anymore, since that's what they agreed upon going into this war. Not only that, but the show writers have changed Maggie's character to where she's become almost corrupted due to becoming obsessed over the idea of revenge due to Negan bashing Glenn's brains in right in front of her while forcing her to watch. That's pretty brutal. I don't blame her for wanting Negan dead, but Rick should have been able to talk to her and discuss things with her instead of creating this inner conflict, foreshadowing it to Season 9. We'll get more into that in a minute, but first let's completely break down this scene from the Season 8 finale, including Maggie, Jesus, and Daryl.
I just wanted to say you were right about saving the Saviors from the satellite outpost, having him here. I don't regret what I did, but you were right. Rick was right about not killing all the Saviors.
He was right.
He was. Not about Negan.
First, Maggie starts by stating that Jesus was right after sparing all the lives of the Saviors from the satellite outpost at the beginning of the season. Maggie wanted them all dead, but Jesus saw that it was worth giving them a chance to survive. Maggie continues to say that Rick was right about not wanting to kill all the Saviors, implying that she does understand why they shouldn't simply murder all of them and wipe them all out. Since Negan and all of his lieutenants have been taken out, the rest of the Saviors agree that things should be run differently. We saw Tara and Rosita roll up to the sanctuary to clear the air and start showing that they're all now willing to help each other out equally like Rick wants. Maggie's point here is that she doesn't just want all the Saviors dead anymore, she's content with them winning the war. Her problem isn't with the Saviors surviving, it's that Negan gets to survive. She feels like Rick has snatched that decision away from her without giving her a choice in the matter, and she feels like she's being treated unfairly considering her reasoning for revenge. Now I understand her perspective, but she just acts so odd in this scene. I think it's because we've never really seen her act like a villain of some sort, so it's kind of weird to see her plotting something behind Rick's back while we have that low-pitched menacing music playing in the background. So not only does it seem out of character for Maggie to be acting this way, why is Jesus grinning and agreeing with Maggie as well? He's been a peacekeeper since his introduction in Season 6, believing that everyone deserves a chance, wanting to preserve human life at any opportunity given. We haven't even had enough screen time with Jesus during the second half of Season 8 to justify why his mindset could have even changed or evolved to agree with Maggie at this point. So I'm just convinced that they kind of plopped him right there for the simple fact that Jesus seems to be acting like Maggie's sidekick. So what, is Jesus just supposed to blindly follow Maggie's corrupt goal? Jesus is supposed to be an advisor of hers, not just a blind follower. Don't you guys think that Jesus should have tried convincing Maggie otherwise here? He seems oddly okay with something morally wrong, and again, it just seems out of character.
So we're gonna bide our time, wait for our moment, and then we're gonna show him.
And then finally there's Daryl. Now Daryl is like Rick's brother, so why is he suddenly there? Yes, Daryl and Rick fought during the first half of Season 8 as far as Daryl wanting to rush their plans to get to a conclusion, but they had a really great conversation at the hilltop after Carl's death, and I took that as them making up and being there for each other. Brothers fight and they made up. I thought it wasn't really that big of a deal. Daryl realized that what he did was probably wrong, but Rick forgave him for it because he understands his perspective now. So why does Daryl suddenly decide decide to walk in and secretly plot with Maggie. I suppose that Negan keeping him prisoner during the first half of season 7 could be enough of a reason, but I would hope that Daryl wouldn't continue to be this ignorant and stubborn. Ever since the season 7 premiere, Daryl has proved time and time again that he will make mistakes and not learn from them, but at the end of season 8, Daryl actually let Dwight go, giving him mercy and proving that Daryl can actually change and possibly be a better person. So with that being said, is he literally turning right around to go plot with Maggie about how they shouldn't spare Negan's life right after sparing Dwight's? Again, they can't just cop out and say that Daryl wants Negan dead due to Negan making Daryl his prisoner, and I guess that Dwight did prove himself multiple times by helping them take Negan down, whereas Negan hasn't proved himself whatsoever yet, but it is still a little bit hypocritical to let Dwight go, then turn around and back Maggie on wanting Negan dead. Also, did Daryl know to walk in on Maggie's meeting with Jesus at that exact moment, or was it just a coincidence? Maybe they called for Daryl to join them, but don't you think that Maggie would have waited to start talking until they knew that Daryl was there? The way Daryl walks in from the shadows definitely makes it seem like he just walked into the room, because if he was standing there the whole time, I feel like Maggie would have acknowledged him alongside Jesus, and we would have seen him sooner as well. So, did Daryl really just overhear Maggie's diabolical plan and coincidentally agree with her and decide to walk in and talk about it too? Well, wait for Maggie to just leave the doors completely open when she's having this super secret meeting with Jesus. Maggie sure is lucky that the one person who just so happened to overhear them and walk in on them just so happens to agree with them as well, instead of running off to rat them out to Rick. Anyways, I digress. Bottom line, I feel like the Maggie versus Rick drama is nothing more than something to tide us over between seasons, and I kinda think it was a horrible decision. They could have come up with something better to tease us with for season 9 other than Maggie being grumpy and upset over Negan not dying. Yes, I understand that she would be mad at Rick for sparing Negan's life, but that's why she should have talked with him about it. Maggie should have been with Rick, Michonne, and Sadiq when they were there to talk to Negan while he was waking up. I say this because Maggie was actually there in the comic book version of that scene, and Rick literally convinces her to give sparing Negan's life a chance. So, you may have heard me talk about this if you've heard me talk about Carl in the past, but to make a long story short, in the comics, Rick never became that obsessed over killing Negan, so when the war ended, he actually came up with the idea to spare Negan's life all on his own. In the show, they made Rick so obsessed with wanting to kill Negan.
I'm gonna kill you. Not today, not tomorrow, but I'm gonna kill you. I told you already, I'm gonna kill you. All of you.
That they needed to literally kill off Carl to bridge the gap with Rick's mindset to help him arrive at the decision to save Negan's life. However, in the comics, Carl was actually the one who wanted to kill Negan, while Rick convinced him not to, and everyone else, including Maggie, telling them that Negan's life should be spared because they're better than him. In the comics, Rick starts talking about how they used to always kill to survive, along with implying that they have a chance to change the way that they act now. Maggie gets mad at Rick for trying to say that the man who killed Glenn should live, but Rick says that they have a chance to start over and even relive history in a sense. Rick suggests rebuilding and changing things as they go on now, as they have the opportunity to do things better. Rick is talking about rebuilding civilization, along with stating that they should spare Negan's life because they are better than him. Maggie responds to this by saying that she even thinks that Glenn would like the idea, and I completely agree. Glenn has always believed in someone coming back. Just look at how he wouldn't give up on that Nicholas asshole at the end of season 5 going into season 6. Glenn has always given people a second chance. He always cared about everyone. Now, Glenn was my favorite character from the first 6 seasons of The Walking Dead, so I could honestly gush about him for a while, but Glenn and Morgan should have talked more in season 6 while they had the chance instead of Carol taking up all of Morgan's attention, because Glenn and Morgan probably would have been best friends as far as believing the motto that all life is precious. If Glenn could give Maggie and Rick advice at the end of All Out War, he would want them to be better than the person who killed him, Negan, and in a sense that concept was enough to convince Maggie that they should in fact spare Negan's life, at least in the comics. So where the hell was this conversation in the show? I feel like everything with Maggie, Jesus, and Daryl plotting against Rick could have simply been avoided if Rick would have talked to Maggie about this, but instead they've changed the show to create more inner conflict as Maggie decides to bottle up her emotions and opinions and talk behind Rick's back and plot against him instead of just actually talking to him face to face about it. This could be solved in 5 minutes, but no, let's foreshadow a bunch of inner conflict for season 9. Now I get that they needed something going into into season 9 rather than like prematurely showing off the whispers or something, because everything is concluding and wrapping up, and I guess they wanted to kind of tease a future story arc or at least something going into the future so that we know that there's something still coming up. I guess they just didn't really think of what to do. Now, thank God they didn't rush and spoil the true whisper reveal at the end of season 8, but I wish that they could have thought of some other conflict that would have been more realistic and interesting going into season 9. Like, what about Gregory plotting against Maggie, or maybe something else to do with Jadis and the helicopter? And even if it had nothing to do with conflict, they could have easily given that screen time to other characters closing out season 8 instead of wasting all that time having Maggie plot against Rick. And so Maggie says that they're gonna bide their time and just wait out until they get the right opportunity. But what, she's just gonna bide her time until season 9? I say this because between seasons 8 and 9 is a possible 2 to 4 year time skip. So will Maggie really just bide her time for the entire time skip, only to do something at the start of season 9? You think that she'd only wait for a few months or a year at most, so unless they don't do that long of a time skip, I think that it'll just kind of feel awkward coming back after the time skip in season 9 to only have Maggie finally decide to do something about Negan then. The Walking Dead seems to think that inner conflict is king, and I only partly agree. Yes, we have it when we need it, but don't overuse it. Let it happen organically when it needs to, but don't force inner conflict as a plot point when you can't think of anything else. All too many times it seems like the show writers have been in a situation when they think, well, we don't know how to stall the main characters, so let's have them briefly argue amongst each other, whether it's a legitimate argument or just a stupid misunderstanding. Forced and contrived inner conflict just feels like a waste of time, and it's boring in my opinion. They could have shown a scene or two of Maggie being uneasy towards Negan surviving, possibly even complaining to someone like Jesus, but they shouldn't have shown her plotting like this against Rick the way that she was. We don't need a bunch of casual fans hating on Maggie, Jesus, and Daryl misunderstanding this. I feel like a bunch of people will take this the wrong way, take it too seriously. I'm not too sure, tell me what you think, but the show has been known to misguide us before, like how they misdirected us during the season 6 Comic-Con trailer into thinking that there would be a bunch of conflict between Rick and Morgan at the beginning of season 6 during Morgan's initial return, but that wasn't the case at all, and it never happened. Honestly, I really hope that the Maggie versus Rick inner conflict doesn't take too long in season 9 and it's solved with a simple conversation. I hope that it evolves into the new beginning Gregory storyline, but that's another conversation for another video. Let me know what you guys think about all of this, but that's pretty much it for the video, guys. I'd appreciate a like on the video if you've enjoyed anything I've said today, as it really helps me out more than you can imagine. Feel free to subscribe for more Walking Dead content in the near future, and if you'd like to take that extra step in helping support my videos, consider checking out my Patreon as well. There's a bunch of different rewards involving the channel, such as a chance to directly influence the videos being produced, a link in the description. So, as I said in my last video, I'd love to do daily videos and break down everything I really want involving the Walking Dead show, the comics, and Fear the Walking Dead, but it's just hard putting in all the time necessary when I'm pretty much working for free. That being said, I would greatly appreciate more backing on the Patreon in order to help pay for all the time that I put into grinding out these videos, because they really do take a while. I could just pump out a bunch of low quality content, but I'd prefer taking my time into making videos that I find satisfying to create and watch. YouTube ad revenue is just absolutely pathetic at this point, so this is just a passionate hobby, but I'd really like to continue putting in as much time into this as possible, because I do just have so many ideas for this spring and summer that I plan on producing, and I can't wait to see what you guys think about it. I want to finish doing all my show versus comic book episodes for the rest of season 8. I want to review season 8 as a whole, and then I want to jump back and do more Better Call Saul videos along with Fear the Walking Dead, and maybe even getting into the Telltale games finally if I can find some time. So yeah, it just feels like I have a lot to do with not a lot of time to do it in, but as always, I thank you all so much for watching, and until next time, I'll talk to you guys later. Peace out!